Well, welcome to a new Harry's Farm video, and yeah, today's 5th of October and we're putting the wheat in. We're drilling the wheat slightly earlier than expected, but the ground conditions are just about perfect. This is actually a second week going in. We expected to go a little later in October, second week, but I just can't resist when the ground is like it is. Just had the right amount of moisture. We did the first week we're going to have a look at in a moment, but it's going in really well, and there's just one more field to do after this one. In this video I'm just going to give you a roundup on what's happened with the solar. Seem to get a lot of interest having that solar installation on the farm roof. We've got another installation going in just down at the house, which is ground based, and I'll explain what's going on there and tell you how much solar we've produced. And the oilseed rape has liked the recent sort of damp weather, and we've been hoping and praying it's going to get going, so we'll have a quick look at the oilseed rape as well. First off though, let's go and have a look what that drill's doing. He's just doing the short work at the moment, and you can see, I can see a tramline mark here, so there's a pre-em marker just where I'm standing, 2 rows, just on the cusp of a bit of mud at the moment. We had some rain this morning, which was a bit of a nuisance, so I had hoped to be out here rolling it straight after him, but not quite there. But actually it's going in really well. I'm looking for the sort of mix, and I'm looking for good coverage of the seed. So if I poke around in here, we should be able to find a bit of seed buried. You see, I like this tilth. This is a perfect tilth. There's no sort of clods. It's all a nice tilth. And of course, I can't find any seed. Maybe Stanley, you can find some seed for me. It won't be very far. And the other thing, there's plenty of worms around. You know, if you look, there's quite a lot of seagulls were coming down on this earlier, and that's actually a sort of good sign, because that means they're finding worms, and they tell their mates, and they all come down to have a look. There's the seed. Right, there's a bit of seed there. It's quite deep. There we are. You can just see there we are, that colour seed there. So excellent tilth, good mix, good moisture. That will grow straight away, and then I'll be out here rolling this. Well, I'm going to leave it a day to sort of haze off. There's a bit of sunshine forecast, but yeah, this is what we want to see. This is a good mix. Funny enough, there's a lot of straw here. One of the downsides of having a good year and growing plenty of wheat is you also get plenty of straw, and we've chopped this, had that one carrier over it and try and incorporate it, but there's still quite a lot of straw, but it'll break down by next year. It's just how we farm now, and you know, slightly visually is not what you want to see, because it's not the nice brown field and the lovely wheat coming up through it, but actually it's better for the soil. I ought to add that we actually sprayed this off with glyphosate. We just go up to the headland. I'll show you the reasons why. Just so you know, he's just doing the headland now, so he's finished the lands inside, and now he goes round the outside. You'll see a marker on the outside. We've actually just changed this field because we had a bird mix down there that we've taken out because it didn't do so well with the wood. So the outside of the field is slightly grown. So the first thing he has to do is to get the satellite to know the size of the field. So he's done 1 lap around the outside before he did the inner work, and then he's done the inner work now, the up and down bit, and now he does 5 laps, I think it is, 4 or 5 laps around the outside, and then that's the field done. But yeah, just getting back here, you can see all the growth here. This is mainly volunteer wheat. There's not too much weed in here, but this is what we take out. We scratch with that carrier, and then we hope to get some black grass and weeds there growing. Not exactly sure what they are. No black grass. We seem to be getting on top of the black grass on this farm. Could be linseed, that, I'm not sure. But that's why we use the glyphosate. Take that out, and then we drill the wheat, and then we'll be going in here with a pre-emergent spray in about 4 or 5 days before the crop comes through the ground. So all going on. It feels like, you know, Battle Station's just busy on the farm just when you think it's going to calm down, but once this is in and rolled and sprayed, that's it. We won't go into this wheat field to do anything until probably fertiliser in March time, March time. Right, let's go and have a look what's happening with the oilseed rape. Right, this is the oilseed rape we put in sort of beginning of September, and we can now see the oilseed rape through all the weeds. Because we put it in late, we're very concerned whether this is actually going to make a crop, because you're normally hoping to drill like at the beginning of August, and this was planted, to say, in September. So we haven't used any weed killers in here at all, and just like the other fields, all the volunteer wheat and that sort of thing is coming up. But we have oilseed rape that is now sort of getting through. You can see the cabbage stem flea beetle damage with the holes on it there, but it's growing through it. You can see these true leaves coming through here. That's quite a beefy plant. If I pull that out, that's probably got quite a root, quite a long root on it. So that's, yeah, that was a healthy plant, and there's plenty more around here. So what we've done now is we go in with a herbicide to take out this volunteer wheat, which we've actually already done. It hasn't started to keel over yet, but that's the next move. The good news with this crop is it's actually enjoying the warmer weather. It seems as though end of September, beginning of October has been fairly warm, but there was a mistake made in this field, and I'm going to be very interested to see what happens here, because we completely messed up the seed rate here by a factor of about 10, and we put 10 times the amount of seed that should have gone down here, and of course it's all grown, and it's, well, it looks like a crest bed or something like that. You can't grow it that close because it's just fighting for nutrients, and it'll probably all fall over because it'll get all leggy come the spring and early summer as it absorbs all the nitrogen. So we might have to actually cultivate a bit of this out. It's really quite windy today. I hope the microphone isn't picking too much of it, but yeah, here we've actually got the opposite problem everywhere else. We've got too much rape growing. As I say, we might have to cultivate it out. Anyway, I'm going to show you the other field of oilseed rape that we put in August and didn't appear for about 4 weeks. Stanley, come on, mate. Yeah, look at that. Now here's the other block of oilseed rape, and this one we drilled in August in the expectation it was going to rain, and that forecast rain never arrived, and it just sat there. So there are some big plants in here of sort of ones that sort of got away just from the moisture in the soil, but they don't all look like that. But at least now I'm starting to see rows appear. And this is planted about 3 weeks earlier than the other oilseed rape. But I am pretty chuffed now. You can see rows going up there as well. And you can also see how that spray that takes out all the volunteer barley, that's killed all this barley. I think we're getting a second flush. We'll wait and see. Like, that's a new weed, but we can take those out later on. But the good news is, from my point of view, I now have an oilseed rape that I'll be harvesting in 23. The first stage of the risk with growing oilseed rape is over. It's established. It's about a month behind what it was last year, but we have a plant, and we have enough plants to make a crop, as it were. And we also put a little bit of nitrogen on this as well, only about 30 units, a very small amount, just to help it because it was a bit backward. So it'll be very interesting to see how this develops over the next few weeks before we get the proper frosts and that sort of thing arriving. And the price of oilseed rape makes this worth the gamble. That's why I've sort of, a third of the farm is down to oilseed rape this year, because we're still on for about £550 a tonne, which, well, the year before it's around the £400 mark. So it's a profitable crop. And it's my most profitable crop for harvest 22. I'm going to go through some numbers in a couple of weeks' time, just what's been happening on the farm. But I already know our harvest of oilseed rape, this harvest, was easily the best crop we had this year. So yeah, that's the trouble with oilseed rape. In 21, it was our worst crop by a country mile. So it's always this gamble when you're growing oilseed rape. Over the other side, I'm not going to go in there. That is, we put the wheat in there yesterday. So that's my first wheat, because that's where the oilseed rape was last year, and I've got to come up and roll that later on. But I'm doing a video instead because it rained and I can't go rolling because of the rain. Right, so that's it on the crops. But if you're interested in the solar, I'm going back to the farm just to explain what we're doing there and give a little update of how that insulation on the roof, how that all went. Right, in the last video I explained about the 18 kilowatt peak insulation of solar we put on the farm roof. Well, this is another installation. This is actually for the house, and when we did the house, we put this turbine in 2007, 2006 I think actually installed it. It's a 6 kilowatt wind turbine, that, and it doesn't, that's its peak, but it hasn't really done as much as I expected it to do. It does 3,000 or 4,000 kilowatt hours a year or thereabouts. It's about a quarter of what we need for the house. And I thought, well, solar, investigated solar, obviously, and last year, and I wanted to do something at the house, but because it's an old sort of Cotswold house with the stone roof and it's a bit of a feature of the house, I didn't really want to put panels on the roof. This is the other way you can do it. So this is a ground-based solar installation, and it's basically the same. It's going to go on rails, and then the solar panels are lent just the same, but just inclined like this. And this is going to be a 12 kilowatt system going in here, and it's going to sit, I'm told, about that high, so really quite low. And it is an alternative if you've got more sort of a spare ground. This is a hidden corner here behind these hedges, completely invisible. I think this is a really good place to put it rather than on the roof, just because we haven't got any roof really available on the house. So this is going in the next couple of weeks. But I've already, that installation up there on the farm has been in for 18 days, and it went past 1,000 kilowatt hours produced, which surprised me just how quick that has happened. And we've consumed the vast majority of those 1,000 units, which is quite pleasing. So I reckon it has saved me around £500 in just 18 days. Now, it will get worse as we go into the autumn because the number of daylight hours is reducing, the sun is reducing. I'm fully aware of that, but it's not a bad start for, it went in, I think it was the 18th of September. That's not a bad start for the solar up there. And what I found with the turbine, it's very unreliable. Some days you're going to get, like it's windy at the moment, it's producing it's producing about 1.5 to 3 kilowatts when I just had checked just now. It's always spinning because it's on standby, and then when a bigger gust arrives, it then adds torque to the generator, and that's when it actually produces the power. So you can fool yourself that, oh, it's producing electricity, when it's not. It's basically in standby mode, waiting for the gust to add the torque to the motor, and that's how when it produces the power. So anyway, a bit of a diversification away from the normal farm video stuff, but there seems to be a lot of interest. When I put this on Twitter, it just goes nuts. Everybody, I think, is interested in solar. I mean, it's Home Eco again doing this installation. They are inundated with work. All solar companies are inundated with work because we're all looking to reduce our bills, and also there's general interest in producing energy from the sun through solar. It just, as I say, there's a lot of people, a lot of interest in it at the moment. So the first starting point, I would say, is to know how much you can install, and you have to contact your DNO, as I explained in the last video, district network operator. They will tell you how much you can install and send back to the grid if you're in a farm situation. So that's your first port of call, so then you know how big an installation you can put in. Anyway, next farm video, we'll go back on the farm. I'll be rolling this wheat. I'll explain the first and second weeks and do a little bit on the numbers and what we're doing for next harvest. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, keep watching, keep subscribing, more videos coming along very soon. Gonna do a spin. That's not a spin. Go on, a bigger spin. Oh, that's a better spin. Yeah.